Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Laurie Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo, and Happy New Year 2026. I've been away, been offline for a few weeks now, enjoying family time and time away. And as you can hear, I came back with a little kind of off, I call it, sinus infection, just from traveling. But all is well, and I wanted to get going with January because I've been producing a lot of newsletters. If you have not subscribed to my newsletters, I have already published 4 out of 5 in a 5-part series, all about the energies that we just left behind in 2025, Year of the Snake, and coming into the Year of the Fire Horse, 2026. So although that doesn't officially start till sometime in February, we're in the energy now. So if you're interested in learning more about that, head to my website, www.customdesignedwellness.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll send them out to you. Okay, so why am I here today? Well, before I do what I usually do in January, which will be coming up soon, and I'll get to that in a minute, I wanted to welcome back everybody from being away, if you went away. Welcome you to this new year, for however it's begun for you. And that's really why I wanted to come on and talk about the energy right now. So, although I'm putting this out today, you can really listen to this anytime this entire year. This episode is especially for you if you're interested in how to navigate the start of not just this year, but any new year. So I want to talk about how you begin in general. There's something I know to be true personally and professionally. How you enter any starting gate determines everything about how you're going to run that race ahead, right? So I'm using analogies and metaphors about horses for these topics of conversation because we're entering the year of the fire horse. And anybody who knows me knows I love a really good metaphor. So stick with me on the horse stuff, whether you're a fan of horses or not. So we're not just entering this new year, like I said, we're entering a new 9-year cycle numerologically. 2025 was a 9-year. If you add those digits up, it's 9, which is a wrapping up, a completion. Like I said, we went through the year of the snake. So we were asked to shed skins and release what no longer serves us or works for us, but also in that same way, keep what does. And took a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work to determine what the layers might be, how to shed them, when to shed them, why we would want to toss them. And then also it takes a lot of bravery, learning, and a good hard look at yourself to know what you're not complete with quite yet and what will serve you moving forward into this year that you do still need to wear and carry. So this year being a number 1 year, if you add the digits up of 2026, it's a 1, a 10 to a 1. So we went from the collective snake year, all about the we, moving into this number 1, which is all about the me. And right away when I say that, I just want to caution, it might sound egotistical, it might sound selfish, but it is and it's not, right? So when we take responsibility for ourselves, that's what I'm talking about. Ownership, empowerment, empowered authenticity is a phrase, I like to use a lot. And that's what this year is about. It's a year of initiation, leadership, authorship, and beginning again intentionally on purpose. So, big duh. It's a new year. So, of course, it's a new start. But how we start really, really does matter to how we navigate not just the entire year, but especially this period right now that we're in, these next 4 to 6 weeks, let's say. So, because it's a year of the fire horse, I want to remind you what that means a little bit. It means speed, independence, momentum, forward motion. So, all that stuff's very much in the air. I don't know if you can feel it. I can feel it. But in that same way, it's hard, at least for me, not to get caught up in it, right? So it's like a new year, you want to go from the start. And these newsletters that I produced recently are all about, again, how do we start? And there's a number of ways that we do that. And I've been guilty of all of them, right? And we'll get to that. So the question is, what energy are you bringing into this new year? And let's talk honestly about January for a moment. So, January does have a reputation. It's aggressive, it's loud, it's full of messages that say, start fresh, go big, fix yourself, do it now. And for a lot of people, January doesn't feel so inspiring. It doesn't just feel inspiring, sorry, it feels really activating. The word I was just going to use is it feels a little aggravating because we hear words like start fresh, go big, do it now. And again, we are so easily caught up in that. And the idea of how to work with momentum in this year of the me and the I is determining for yourself how to start your race, right? So some of us do, jump right out. We hit the ground running and we don't burn out. Some of us take on too much. We make too many promises and resolutions. We want to do new diets, make new friends, keep the old, all the things. And then by, February, we're pretty burned out. So this is a marathon this year. And for sure, we're going to be galloping and racing for parts of it. And maybe we started out that way. When I'm talking about this right now, for some of you, you might already be saying, oh, yeah, I kind of started a little too quickly out of that gate. So, again, this podcast is all for everybody, every type of person running that race when the bell rings, whether you crawl out of that gate or sprint. Okay. So, sometimes this energy in January, it- it feels exciting, but it can be overwhelming and it can be, frankly, terrifying. Some people, my friends, have reported they kind of feel left out or left behind if they don't have an idea of what they want to do new this year. Not everybody has to do something new just because it's a new year. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. But if you're wondering why you might not feel so great from one year to the next, there's ways to get in touch with how you're out of alignment and then hopefully get back into it. So when we start something new, the gift, and I laugh because you're not going to look at it that way, but the gift is our old patterns and habits come right along with us, right? So if we haven't done the work to release them by even just noticing what those habits and patterns might be that don't work for us, then we are going to carry them with us into this new year or any year. And even just wanting to think about looking at our patterns and looking at our habits, like I said, have been guilty of all the ways, all the paradigms, right? The sprinter, the galloper, the crawler. I get so excited to start something fresh that I just want to do it all right away. I do lack patience. But some of us hesitate. We drag our feet, kicking and screaming. Takes a lot of time to process new ideas or new ways to consider how we look at ourselves. We're tired, maybe from traveling or partying, and we're just not sure we trust ourselves, right? How to look at ourselves. And that also translates to there's a lot going on in the world. So some of us lack trust that the world will take care of us in the way that it may have been. We have fear for the future and on and on and on. So, what we want to take a look at, especially at the beginning of the year, is what patterns are we dealing with? What habits are we recognizing? And unconsciously, who's running the program, who's running our show, right? So there's that authorship, there's that empowerment. If we are unable to determine for ourselves what sort of programs we have running behind the scenes, then we're just like walking through life with our eyes closed, being led versus taking charge. Okay. So you need to determine again, the starting bell rang on January 1st or the 31st, however you look at it. And if you didn't know, you had a decision right there on what pace actually is going to work for you. to run this race this year and why this transition matters. So if 2025 felt a little emotional or heavy, again, it asked us to do a lot of reflecting and rewording, maybe reworking things. It was full of endings for some of us, whether you recognized it or not. Again, a 9 year is a wrap up. So if things kind of fell away, if you lost friendships or jobs or relationships, you might not think of it as a gift right now, but it was intentionally meant to go last year so that you can start fresh this year. So, a lot of clearing out, a lot of letting go, a lot of release practices, emotional processing, and shedding all those skins. But 2026 is different. So, again, we shift from that we mentality to the me mentality. And that can feel really empowering or it can feel really destabilizing. So, if you don't have a good sense of yourself or you lack self worth, self esteem, you might be insecure, then saying words like take charge, get empowered, take ownership may wig you out. And that's okay. Just that's where you are right now. Because claiming authorship means you don't get to blame anyone or the astrology or the year anymore. You don't get to wait for permission. You don't need to. And you don't get to or need to stay small and call it humble, right? So when we're getting our big pants on and really taking ownership and taking charge and feeling empowered, a lot of stuff gets triggered. And of course, it will come up later. Those triggers, those cringes within our body are areas within the chakra system where we have healing and woundedness, just any imbalance, right? So if, for example, thinking about standing up on a soapbox and really speaking your truth makes you feel like someone's going to accuse you of being egotistical and conceited, that's an imbalance within yourself because you're allowed to stand up on the soapbox and speak your truth. It takes practice, but staying humble and dimming your light isn't going to serve you for sure. And it isn't going to gather around you people who are now living in the same vibration that you may be or you may want to be. Okay. So in that same way, stand on the soapbox, but you also need to ground your energy, right? So it's all a balance between groundedness and lift. And so when we're fiery and wanting to do all the things, we can burn out if we don't bring those things to ground somehow, right? So what is groundedness? It's just finding some centerings, finding a few moments of calm before you go get on the soapbox again. So again, because we're going into the year of the fire horse, I'm using this metaphor of a starting gate. And I just kind of want you to close your eyes and picture a racehorse in a starting gate. If you've ever been to the horse races or seen them on TV, they have to enter this gate before the race starts. How would you feel if you're the horse? Is the stall too narrow? What is the smell inside of that gate? There's other horses next to you. Are you getting inspired by their energy or are you freaked out by their energy? And the stall is both a constraint, but it's also a possibility, right? Horses don't just show up and run. They train first on how to even approach the gate. They do a lot of work. I did some research on this. It's fascinating. They train to walk into that gate. They have to learn how to enter it calmly, and they have to learn how to stay within the stall before the bell rings, also calmly. And if they cannot wait and they start to wig out, then they're removed from the gate and they train all over again until that's a pattern that's built in, how do they just wait for the bell to ring? Okay. So we are meant to learn how to enter this gate of this new year and any new year and also any new experience without panicking. And again, that might feel unfamiliar to some of us. And it takes practice. So that retraining of how we enter the beginning of something, how we start the beginning of something, we might need to retrain ourselves for a little while to get comfortable with the waiting because especially when we want to start new patterns, start new programs, start with aligning in ways that make us feel better about ourselves and the world around us, we have to learn patience, and just take our time. So if we get in that gate as the horse and we're expending a lot of energy, um, then we're going to get exhausted before the bell even rings. So just notice again how you're starting. Are you already in a frenzied state? Are you worried? Are you fearful? Are you super excited? Because that can burn us out too. And how can you bring yourself back to a manageable energy level that will sustain your starting gate persona so that you can choose how to begin the race? Okay. So the question becomes, how do you enter new chapters? Do you rev your engine immediately? Do you overcommit right away? Do you try to transform everything that's not working for you and you want to change by February? Or do you hesitate, hold back, or stay half attached to what's already over? Neither leads to endurance, right? So the frenzied sprint out of the gate and the hesitation, sort of sluggish idea or fear of even leaving the gate isn't going to help you win the race. So the sweet spot is calm and alert readiness. And that only happens when we've actually honored what we're done carrying. So again, the idea of horses, they're beasts of burden. They are meant to carry loads, right? But if they're race horses, they have to carry the lightest load, the lightest jockey. So we're all going to be carrying things into this new year. The idea is to decide and discern what we want to carry, right? Just because we've been carrying a bunch of baggage doesn't mean we need to keep carrying it. And how we let that baggage go matters. That is work in and of itself because we're so used to carrying and wearing these layers that we call ourselves or our responsibilities, whatever labels we have been carrying. We get to toss them if they really don't match who we are. And that tossing can bring up a lot of triggers as well. For example, it can create the feeling of you're dishonoring your family, you're dishonoring your parents or your upbringing. If you decide to turn a corner and change the programming, maybe you want to change your religious beliefs, maybe you're changing your sexuality, you're changing your friend group, you're moving out of state, whatever the change is, notice what comes up for you as you're thinking about making that change or actually making the change. Because those little messages or loud messages have everything to do with imbalances that are bubbling up, and they're meant to, although they're not easy to look at or feel or experience, but we're meant to experience our experiences so that we can heal and repair what we need to so that we're not burdened any longer moving forward. So we're allowed to let stuff go. Um, And I just want to talk about tarot for just a second. I'm not a tarot reader. I'm a huge fan of tarot. And since COVID, so for several years now, I've gotten into listening to a few of my trusted tarot people. And I love the magician card for several reasons. I wrote about this recently, but I'll tell you, it came in a download while I was at the gym on the bike. Before I even knew what the magician card even looked like, I had this image of what is now my logo of me sitting in Sukhasana, lotus position, seated position, with one hand down to ground and one hand up to sky with an infinity symbol over me. And then it was soon after I had this image on this bike that I was listening to something and they talked about the magician card. So it was like, oh my God, right? That was like a huge synchronicity right there. And it was sort of one of those moments, and I have several all day long, where it's like I catch myself being amazed. Like, this stuff really does happen and it really happens to me. So the download of my logo definitely connects to the magician in the tarot. And what I love about the magician is he or she combines and possesses all of the other suits, right? So the magician carries the wands and the swords and the cups and what's the other one? Oh my God. He carries all the suits. And the magician alchemizes as necessary which ones to use, right? Wands, swords, cups. Yeah, it's out of my mind. Anyway, so what the magician does through this alchemization is use discernment, when to use the fire, when to get to ground, when to pause, when to act. And this year, this 2026, isn't about more effort necessarily. It's about smarter energy, using our efforts in a wiser way. So that's where I have to admit again, I lack patience. I get so excited to even bring you this podcast, for example. I couldn't wait to do it. And now I'm making all sorts of mistakes, which is totally fine. But I want to get this word out immediately. And in that same way, when I learn something new, I want to apply it immediately to myself. And so, just as a cautionary tale, take me as an example. If you lack patience like I do, just notice it and maybe change that pace up a little bit. Everything we learn is exciting and wonderful, but it cannot possibly be integrated right away and have it stick, right? You can throw some band-aids on, but it's not really going to sink in unless you really work with things in a methodical and intentional way. Because listen, when we learn something new and it brings us an illuminating feeling or experience, we want to stay there. And when we see possibility, we want to move right towards it. And that enthusiasm is so real, it's authentic, but it's also something, like I said, I have to learn how to pace for myself. You know, however you're wired, I don't want you to feel like you need to suppress your natural inclinations. But again, if you feel or find yourself burning out or unable to stick to something, that's a good clue that you have some work to do in how you pace yourself with information and how to work with it. Which brings me to what everybody tends to talk about in the new year, which is New Year's resolutions. And again, if you've been receiving my newsletters, not just this year, but starting last year, intentionally, I don't make New Year's resolutions. I make New Year's evolutions because the words are quite different, right? Resolution to me, and you can look it up on your own, but how I take the word resolution is it's very finite and structured, very inflexible, puts a lot of pressure on me or people. But an evolution allows for discernment. It allows for us to learn what works and what doesn't work as we're moving towards goals, right? So it's not that we don't want to make goals, but for some of us, listen, some of us need strict goals and accountability in that way. I'm not one of those people. Um, tend to make a schedule and then I'm the first person to bust that schedule. And then I get all mad at myself. I'm like, then I think, well, who the fuck cares? I'm the one that made the schedule in the first place about putting these podcasts out and all the things. So I laugh at myself because I am ridiculous. Just hopefully, as we can all laugh at ourselves in our versions of ridiculousness, make a schedule. And if you need to break it, give yourself grace, unless it's a job and you've got a deadline. But if it's something like this where you're making the idea of something you want to try, it's a diet. Let's say it's a diet. That's a universal thing for everybody in January. And okay, you go out with your girlfriends and now, you're not doing your dry January anymore. Or, you've got a family dinner and you said you weren't going to eat meat in January and now you're enjoying a delicious steak. You can get right back up on the horse in the year of the horse to start again. Doesn't mean you have to start from zero. Maybe it does, but it doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater either. Just because you got off your diet for a meal, um, give yourself a chance to get back on the diet, back on the plan, back into the program with humility, make adjustments, fine tune. Again, evolve, grow and change, evolve. We learn as we go. And hopefully, what we learn works for us will stick. And it might not stick forever, but if it's working for us for a period of time, we're allowed to let it stick, just as we're allowed to let it go. So I'm going to slow this down a little bit. You might want to get out a journal, perhaps, or pause and grab a journal or come back to this and write for yourself to consider. How do I usually start new chapters? And then another question could be, what pace am I defaulting to right now? Another question, what's driving that pace? Is it excitement, fear, comparison, old programming? And then I'd like you to write down, what would a sustainable version of success look like for me this month? And a final question to consider, what do I actually want to carry forward? And what am I done dragging behind me or all over me? So, as we move forward this year, I'm going to be talking about how this energy lives in our body. And because mindset alone doesn't create change, it's a good place to start. But we're asked this year, instead of thinking to feel, we are being asked to feel in order to think. And you guys know I'm a big fan of Jeanette Biro, and she just was talking about this recently, and she's been talking about it a lot. And I love the way she connects that. We've gone from this thinking mind to feel to living through our heart centered authenticity, leadership, empowerment, authorship. And then we get to decide what we think. Okay. So it's very different. We are meant to be living from our hearts. And I've been talking about this just on my own for a long time as well. As you know, working with chakras, the heart is the bridge between the lower and the upper, right? So when we're working as a bridge, think about ways we connect, not just within ourselves, but from ourselves and to ourselves. So, mindset alone doesn't make change. Awareness of ourselves doesn't necessarily make change, but the combination of what our minds are doing, the awareness of what and how we're operating, and then embodying that learning makes lasting change. So for me and my mission and my passion, and it's part of the brand of my business, my secret sauce is integrating the chakra system, this ancient system, into the modern bodies we have to navigate the lives we're living now. And I do that in a variety of ways through yoga and movement. I do it with my Reiki practice with my clients. I do that with my straight talking dialogue clients and workshops that I create that embody movement or just straight discussion. So this will be my 10th year um, teaching yoga through the chakras in all of my classes. And so I plan on bringing you these next several weeks, learning about each chakra and ways for you to hopefully understand and embrace and embody that learning in ways that work for you. The brand, as you know, I'm working with in my custom design wellness, the workshops I produce we do come with instructions. And that's intentionally phrased that way because for those of you who are not into the woo woo words like chakras or energy wheels, you can understand the idea of coming with instructions. So I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying it. We are like tables from IKEA. We have instructions on how to be assembled. And when we were born, we came with those instructions. And I wish that we really did come with instructions so our parents could bring us home from the hospital and look at those instructions and work with those. But what happens is we come home from the hospital and our parents are working with their instructions and they write our instructions. And so my mission and my joy is to help you and empower you to rewrite your own instructions. But if you don't understand you have them, you don't understand how to read them, nor do you understand how to rewrite them, then it's going to be harder for you to consider that you're a body meant to evolve and change, work and rewrite and feel the best and truest version of yourself. And so my hope is that in 2026 and beyond, you're going to get there. And I'd like to be one of the people that help you get there. So thanks so much for listening. I know this was a lot. Again, if you want to read more about some of these themes that I discussed today, head to my website. I'm also going to link it in the show notes below. Sign up for my newsletter or shoot me an email, Lauri, Lauri, at customdesignedwellness.com, and let me know what you're looking for. I've got free consultation calls. I've got programming on my website, and I think 1 hour to 2 hour sessions you can sign up for anything that I offer. But it all starts with that conversation. So you can go ahead and sign up if you already know me for things. But if you don't know me so well, or you don't know yourself so well and what you even might want from me, then just let's have a conversation because my intuition starts working the moment we say hello. And you can see I'm smiling so big. That's my favorite thing. Really designing and alchemizing the customized pathways that work for you and your body and where you're at so that we can work together in a way that honors you. All right. So, a happy, healthy, amazing new year. And I will be back again to start talking about the root chakra. Okay. Until then, have a great, wonderful day and week ahead. Bye.